What's good, everybody? I'm Jędrek, he's Sodek, and today we are gonna talk about various combo decks in Modern. Those that are good, those that are bad, and that's about it, I guess. Let's go. Alrighty, so after this rather vague introduction, we might actually tell you what the subject of this video will be. I guess it will be in the title, so you already know that. Or it might not be in the title, we'll see. Basically, Sodek for the longest time wanted to record a video about bad decks or bad combo decks in Modern and focus on why are those decks bad, what help do they need to be good, and well, incidentally, we will also be talking about good decks and why are they good. So yeah, as last word of introduction, I guess, like Modern used to be a format that was all about combo. Like in the first half of it, I would say, like pre-fatal push combo decks were sometimes it was creature combo, sometimes it was like an actual combo deck, but combo was a very big factor in Modern. Combo decks need to be respected. Were quite often the best deck in the format, but ever since Fatal Push got printed, I think the only time we really had a great combo deck as a best deck in the format was KCI, I think. I don't really recall other combo decks that were great. And while we are on the topic of KCI, KCI got banned. And
Yes.
it got banned because it was too good. But why it was too good? So Sodek has this theory about the triangle of, or holy triangle, let's say, of combo qualities of decks that you can have, and now he will tell you what are those three qualities and what are they representing, I guess.
Yeah. So if we are talking about combo decks, we can separate all of them into those who rely on the speed, for those who are very very stable, and the combo decks who are which are resilient to kite. And these three metrics, speed, stability, and resilience, are the most important metrics if you want to tell anything about any combo deck in Modern, even in Magic, generally speaking. And KCI was, too good for its times. I don't know if KCI would be good now because there's Karn, the Great Creator, Force of Negation.
Like full on KCI with Moxopal?
Yes, I think it would be
It
okay.
would be too good.
I don't think so. I feel that like answers are much better than it was earlier, but we'll get to there.
Yeah, but they have
in a
Erdos Saga
second.
now.
That's true. Okay.
So
Erdos
yeah,
Saga,
I think if you just port a decklist that Madness won a GP with like 3 years ago, and you don't add any new cards to it, then it wouldn't be too good probably. But if you actually update it with the cards that got printed since then, I think you might have a problem.
maybe. It's all a theory craft because we'll never know.
Yeah, and it's not the topic of the video.
Yes. So KCI was too good because it had turn 3 kills. It was very very stable. Like turn 4 kill was almost guaranteed, and the deck was very resilient because if the opponent had a lot of hate, KCI could just prolong the game with engineered explosives, attack with scrap troller and create card advantage with it, or even attack from very different angle by using Psi Master Top Terrorist. So when the combo deck is like good on all of these three metrics, it gets banned quite quickly. In practice, there aren't many combo decks that are really good at all these three things. So it's much easier to find a combo deck that's good on 2 out of 3 of these metrics, but will struggle in a third one. For instance, a good and stable combo deck would be Storm. Modern Storm with Goblin Electromancer, Baral, etc. It's a deck that's capable of winning on turn 3, and it's doing it quite consistently. The problem is that basically anything can interact with Storm nowadays because it's resilient to creature removal, to grave hate, to storm hate.
Not
Or
resilient, rather, because you said it's resilient, but it's not resilient to those things.
It's not resilient. It's very stable, but not resilient.
Yeah. You just said that it's resilient to those things, and it's obviously not.
No. That's
yes.
sorry. I was
basically any kind of hate that you can think of that's not artifact hate is good against Storm, more or less. Graveyard creature, playing multiple cards on one turn, drawing multiple cards on one turn, discard counter magic, everything is just maybe not like game over, but coupled together. Like if your opponent presents 2 of those things, you will have a pretty bad time, and if it's like 3 or more, like you're just cooked. Of course, they also need to have like a clock, but yeah, like most decks at this point will have some sort of clock. Even blue-white started gravitates toward this Narset Teferi deck with Days Undoing that we might talk about a bit later because it's like kind of combo-ish, and I wanted to mention it.
What?
I played it today actually, and it wasn't terrible.
Wow.
Okay.
Like some would say that okay, so I'm really bad at resilience, but I'm very very fast and I'm stable at what I'm doing. So is my combo deck good enough for Modern? And before Modern Horizons, the answer could be yes. Like it was possible to be really bad at one thing while being good at others. For
Like
instance,
Storm.
like Storm, like not being resilient. Like for example, Scapeshift. The deck was very stable and resilient to different kind of hate, but it was
very slow. Yeah, it was very similar to like Calibrated Blast these days, right? Maybe not that extreme, but you had your big spell and you couldn't really do anything before you resolve your big spell. Like, okay, you could have had like Lightning Bolt or something, but and Calibrated Blast like literally cast no spells beforehand, but still like it's a very similar deck. But also you said that you can't be good on 3 out of 3 metrics because you will get banned. But if you are only good on 2, you are not good enough. So what qualities does your deck need to have to be playable in Modern? Because we do have a bunch of playable combo decks in Modern. So for example, a deck you are very familiar with, that you play a lot, Living End. How would you rate Living End on those 3 axes? Like, what's the weakest point and how weak is the weakest point? Because I feel like this is what we are talking about. Like, Storm is terrible at resilience. Like, let's say, I don't know, 1 out of 5 or 0 even, but probably 1. Like, you can't get 0, I guess. But maybe Living End is like 2 or 3 on this weakest axis.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't have like all of 3 metrics max out, but on the other hand, you can't have your 1 metric being at the lowest position ever. So the trick is to give up some of the 1 metric, but not enough to be able to compete. For instance, Living End is a very stable deck. It's a 1-card combo because you need to draw a Cascade spell and cycle 1 out of 20 creatures that chain together, and it's extremely stable at cascading on turn 3. It's very resilient because you have Grief, you have Force of Negation, and again you are a 1-card combo. But the deck isn't the fastest enough. Like the deck has some turn 4 combo kills, which are quite often. If you get there, for instance, you have a Cycler into Waker of Waves plus some Street Raids into turn 3 Cascade spell. That's quite likely that you'll kill the opponent on turn 4. That happens, and that's really cool in some matchups. For instance, if you're playing versus Tron, you don't want to prolong the game because the more untaps with Tron they get, the more scary the situation is. So the main idea is to not give up fully on animatic, and it's the easier to find the decks nowadays that are stable and resilient, but they are not the fastest ones, because if you have a lot of interaction, you can compensate the loss of speed. It's quite hard to find like pure combo decks from the other side of the spectrum. For instance, something that's really fast and resilient, but it's not stable. Kind of hard. It's much easier to find something that's fast and that's stable, but it's also not resilient to hate. For instance, Hammer. It's a creature combo deck, so any Solitude, any Lightning Bolt can be a problem, but the deck can kill you on turn 3 quite often. So that balances out a bit. Another
Yeah,
good...
I don't know about this. I think Hammer actually might be the deck that's kinda getting to the point in which it's pretty good to great even on all of those metrics. Like Erza's Saga is a very powerful way of like fighting through removal spell. Like I think Hammer resilience to removal spells plural is pretty high, but or to creature removal, but it's low against things that can deal with Erza's Saga. Like for example, Hammer matches up pretty poorly against Force of Vigor, or against card like Engineered Explosives or Dress Down that can sweep a bunch of things at once for like 2 mana or whatever, or 0 in case of Force of Vigor, while still like netting your card or letting you you play explosives for 0 mana, so it's no initial investment, and then you just sit on it and you get a lot of positional advantage by like holding them for as long as you need, and then at some point you can like end step Fire of Explosives and then play something on a clear bird on your part, and you don't have to be scared of just getting bonked by Hammer because they have no creatures. And if they have no creatures, when they untap, it's very unlikely that they will kill you, aside from like Gingerbrute, which is like a one-off. But yeah, I would say Hammer is like
but that's the question. What we call resilience. Is resilience just being able to do actions in game or executing the combo? Because in my opinion, resilience it's not the same as having a plan B. I wanted to tell about something about plan B a bit later, but it came here. Like nowadays, combo decks in Modern can't rely fully on the combo, so they have to present some form of plan B. This plan B can be an attack with anemic creatures. For instance, you attack with some bunch of 2/2s or maybe tokens from Urza's Saga if you have enough time. Or you have Dryad plus Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle. Or you just have enough Force of Negations in Living End to hold until you can draw your Cascade, or just play your Endurance and Furies if you are playing Glimpse of Tomorrow.
I don't agree with this. Like, I don't agree with the part that I wouldn't put attacking with Curator of Mysteries with Force of Negation backup on the same level as attacking with Urza's Saga's Token Hammer. Because Erza's Saga and a bunch of artifacts is a combo. Like Erza's Saga and 3 artifacts or something, which is not too hard to combine, right? You play a Spinning Cliff Jump here, an equipment here, maybe like an Ornithopter or Memnite, and then you make 2 tokens and find another artifact, and suddenly you have 2 6/6. Like, it kills in 2 turns. So it's like, it's
a really good plan B. It's not a combo, man.
Yeah, like I guess it's because Hammer is not really a combo deck in a same fashion as Living End is. It's like a hybrid deck, like Affinity was, I guess.
Or Infect.
Or Infect. Yeah, I think it's more akin to Affinity, because you sometimes just present like a whiteboard and you just attack with a bunch of creatures. But yeah, in fact, it's a bit similar to that. But yeah, you were saying a lot about Plan B, and that most of decks that are good combo decks in Modern have Plan B. But there is one deck that is pretty good, and at least from time to time when the metagame is right. And it does not have Plan B almost at all, I would say.
That's true. That's like we are
And
talking
that's
about belt.
kind of ironic because its name starts with B. And it's Belcher.
Yes. Goblin Troll Belcher combo. By combo, again, we mean casting one card. But you need to sacrifice a lot in terms of deck building to make it happen. Belcher is in a very unique spot because it's a quite stable deck because it's a one card combo and you can like mult to 4 and still kill the opponent on turn 3 because you just cast turn 2 recross into turn 3, reforge the souls, etc. That's why like the deck is also quite fast. Is it resilient to hate? That's the good question. But thanks to how Recross the Paths works, it gives you a lot of options to fight through hate. And you don't need to kill very fast. For instance, if you are playing versus control decks, you can just cast Recross and prepare very control heavy piles that won't rely on Reforge at all. So Belcher is really unique, and if you the guy who is watching us right now really want to play like pure combo deck, like Belcher is your best option at the moment, and nothing is not even close in my opinion. But there are other decks that can have its moments, but if you want to like keep playing your one combo deck all the time, that Belcher is basically the best option because it has the highest position in all of these three metrics we're talking about, while not having a plan B like other combo decks in the format.
Yeah. Like I guess Belcher is the best of those decks, of those like pure combo decks if you want to just keep on playing the same deck. But I think even Belcher is not a deck you can play always. Like
that's true.
There is an archetype, I guess, of Magic player who I like to call something like I don't know, combo specialist or something like this. Competitive combo player, however you want to call it. Just like a guy that just has a bunch of different combo decks, and they have those different deck boxes, and in each of those deck boxes is a different deck that they never take out unless there is a good moment for it. So before each weekend, before each tournament they come to their room where they have their Magic cards, and they look at the shelf and okay, so this week I think Belcher is pretty good. And the other week, maybe Livingend is pretty good. And I think like Sodek is this kind of player. And those people will have their primary deck in any format. For example, I would say there is a roughly like 70% chance that Sodek will show up with Livingend. And because it's the most well-rounded of those decks that he's playing, the one that's most like versatile and requires like least specific metagame to shine. And then if the metagame is right for Belcher, maybe 20% of the time he'll play Belcher, and the remaining 10% will be split between like Dredge and maybe some decks like, I don't know, Glimpse that he's never played before, but maybe he'll think that it's a good idea to practice Glimpse and at some point just sleeve it up, or I don't know, Calibrated Blast, whatever. We'll get to Calibrated Blast in a second, I guess.
The art of playing combo decks in Modern right now is to know when your combo deck is really good. For instance, we can just go now to Calibrated Blast because it's the best moment. Calibrated Blast is a deck that started as a meme. And, the deck does, like Jędrek once said, that it's a very honest deck. You sleeve it up and you exactly know what you'll do the whole tournament. You'll just cast Calibrated Blast on turn 3 and maybe Flashback on turn 5.
Yeah, let's say that your most important decision with the deck is whether or not you will play it. And then once you register it, there is not much else to do. Like, you will flip the cards from the top of your deck, and
some
if it's a 15
decisions,
drop, it's okay. Of course, like every deck and every game of Magic has some decisions, but I think Calibrated Blast is by far the deck with least amount of decisions I've ever seen once you are in the tournament.
Yes.
It's not to say that Calibrated Blast is like a deck for people who like have no skill or something like that, because if you pick Calibrated Blast for the wrong tournament, then you are done. So you will be crushed. So the real skill is in reading the metagame. That's what I already mentioned. Like, of course, like if you will give Calibrated Blast to a person, like, I don't know, imagine a person who can't speak English and they have their whole deck in English, and you just tell them, I don't know, for example, I don't know, your grandma or someone like 80 years old can't play Magic at all, like doesn't even understand the game. How do you say, grandma, this is a pile of cards. You show her Calibrated Blast. You show her lands. When free, cast, count. And that's all. Like, they only know what to do. Like, just flip the cards from the top of your deck, and no sideboard even. Just 60 cards without any sideboard cards. And when you have 3 mana, cast this card. When you have 5 mana and it's in your graveyard, cast it again. Flip till you find a non-land. Point at your opponent. Say what's the converted mana cost of the card you revealed. And that's all. Like, nothing else. So I assume that Calibrated Blast is a deck that will yield by far the most win rate with the least amount of information you give a person that is playing with it. Like, they can not play Magic at all, completely. Like, not any actual Magic knowledge, and they will actually win some rounds. But overall, their win rate throughout the whole, I don't know, 100 tournaments. They play 100 tournaments each weekend, a different tournament. Their win rate will be pretty terrible. Aside from the fact that they can't play Magic, like literally can't play Magic, but let's discount that. Like, the art is in picking the right moment for this deck.
And before we say that there aren't any moments, there was a moment for Calibrated Blast, like last week or like 2 weeks ago. Calibrated Blast won a modern challenge, like a tournament for 150 people with a bunch of really good players. So it turns out that it just crashes for color, and it has a somewhat decent matchup versus Murktide if you start with Boseju, who shelters all.
I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I'm also not a believer, but like based on what I saw in social media, like Calibrated Blast players say that they have a reasonable matchup with Murktide. Against Murktide. So
I don't believe that. Like, unless Murktide players think, no, they are only casting red spells and I will never sideboard Blood Moon against them, and then they will play Boseju. Like, if you sideboard Blood Moon, or even better, Alpine Moon against them, and their Boseju doesn't work, and you just counter their stuff and bash them with a creature, it's pretty hard to win. And even if Murktide is not a really bad matchup, I think that, of course, I was listening to my favorite podcast, Dominaria's Judgment, as always, and they were talking about Calibrated Blast recently. The card that matches up very, very well against the card Calibrated Blast is Force of Negation, because it exiles and they can't flash it back. So anytime Cascade decks are good, Cascade decks with Force of Negation, that is, so Rhinos or Living End, Calibrated Blast will have hard time. But I will agree that Calibrated Blast crashes 4-color. Like they just don't operate on the same axis as Calibrated Blast is. It's similar to how Belcher crashes 4-color because they just want to move some arbitrary pieces of cardboard from zone to zone, draw some cards, get incremental advantage every turn, and you just go boom, you're dead. Boom, you're dead, and that's it. Like they don't care about the number of cards in your hand or what's the board state or your life total unless it's 0 or less. Like those decks are really good at beating 4-color, and those decks are the biggest reason why 4-color isn't what some people say it is, which is the best deck in Modern. 4-color can never be a best deck in Modern because it has those lopsided matchup. It can be the best deck for a weekend, but it will never be a best deck in the format for a prolonged period of time because of that.
Yes.
And we wanted to laugh at Calibrated Blast, but it won a challenge. Or like, truth be told, is the second time we are recording this video because I erased our last batch of files by accident with a bunch of old files because I had to make space on my PC, and I just clicked, do you want to permanently delete those? And I was like, yeah, fine, I don't need them. They're all already on YouTube. And this one wasn't. So yeah, tough luck. Yeah. And back then, like it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were laughing at Calibrated Blast a bit. Not too much, because we do think, like, we basically were saying all the same things we are saying today, but with a bit of mocking here and there. And now, before this episode, Sodek said to me, dude, we can't laugh at Calibrated Blast, it won a challenge. And I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever, we can do whatever we want, it's our channel. And no, it won a tournament, we are not allowed to mock it. So here's me mocking it a bit, but respectfully. I'm respectfully mocking the deck.
Calibrated Blast players, respect. I really admire you. Like you need to be very brave to register this type of deck, because like once I started playing, a bit better decks, because I loved wacky combos in the past, but once I started playing Living End and realized that my decision can matter more than just picking the deck, like I have Grief and Force of Negation to counter things and discard, suddenly I felt that my win rate is higher. But like from time to time, I still like to, for instance, bring Belcher when I feel that the metagame is good for it. For instance, there aren't a lot of Merc type decks.
Yeah.
So just keep doing it. Like still, there are some combo decks who, for some reason, people keep playing, but they are just too bad.
Yeah, but
to
I want to say, still in the mocking category of Calibrated Blast, you say that those people are brave, and I want to remind you that there's a thin line between courage and stupidity. And if you play this deck every week, that's just a little bit silly. But if you find the spot and you have enough courage to play, then hats off to you for picking the right deck. So I guess Calibrated Blast is the first one of those decks that we would dub like bad combo decks, let's say. Like those decks that kind of need something more to be like a deck that can be good more than every once in a while.
Generally speaking, I have a nice idea. Generally speaking, if you have this triangle, speed, stability, resilience, bad combo decks are really good at two things, and they give up the third part, like it was in a pre-Modern Horizons 1 metagame. And the only way to negate the lack of this third metric is to pick up the deck when this third metric does not matter that much. For instance, Calibrated Blast will never be faster than what it is at the moment. It's like impossible to make the decks faster unless you are on a draw and keep revealing Gemstone Caverns. There aren't any other.
You basically would need like Ancient Tomb or Sarpazan's Scary kind of land.
Oh, that would be nice.
Something like that that can just produce more than one mana per turn.
It needs to be land. You
And
can't
it
play
needs to
any
be a
other
land.
things.
It can't even be like Simian Spirit Guide or something like that. You actually need a land that can ramp you.
Yeah, but when the meta game for the tournament you are trying to prepare is not about speed at all, then this kind of deck can be good. There are some decks that, try to attack from the same angle. For instance, there's Neoform that's very speed and very stable, but extremely bad against in terms of resilience. But there was a moment when Neoform was a really good deck. For instance, it was a Hogak metagame when like Neobrand had extremely good matchup versus Hogak because it was just a turn faster.
Yes.
So
Basically,
it's possible to find holes in the metagame to play your combo deck, but you shouldn't play the same all the time because it will just never work in
like
that metagame.
imagine that the card, because the card Neoform was printed in War of the Spark like month and a half or 2 months before the first Horizon set. Imagine that Neoform was printed 2 years earlier. Would something be banned from it?
I think
At
yes.
some point, like at the time when Modern was just a sea of linear decks, or even the best case scenario, imagine that Eldritch Evolution and Neoform are printed in the same set. So Eldritch Moon.
Oh, that's
Like they wouldn't print two so similar cards, and Eldritch Moon was in the multicolor set, whatever. Don't care, but imagine that they are printed in the same set.
I think we would have this discussion about the banning it because there's also a fade rate. There's also like how often the deck actually does what it is, what it's like designed to do. But overall, I think it would be very close to being banned. At the moment, there are enough free interaction thanks to Modern Horizons 1 and 2, then that all these, old-fashioned cool combo decks from another era are just not good enough. For instance, there is a Jeskai Ascendancy combo with, there's a Pablo 1-2. Then, I believe it's a Japanese player.
It's 1-2 Pablo, not the other way around, but yeah, they are Japanese.
Okay,
and they play Ascendancy for 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, and I really admire this type of dedication, but sadly the metagame went so far ahead that the deck is not playable at all. Or other way, Twiddle Storm. That's a deck that when you can set up your draws, when you can just have your Lotus Field in the opening plus some Twiddle effects, etc., the deck is really good. I think the power level is there. The problem is with consistency. It's really you have only 4 Lotus Fields, and it's really hard to have more. Maybe with crop rotation, there would be a moment an option to make the deck more stable.
Yeah, we basically, I guess, agreed that if a deck can kill consistently on turn 3, then it's good enough in stability and speed. Like, for example, Storm. Or for example, if Calibrated Blast had a 20 drops instead of 15 drops, so the first Calibrated Blast was good enough, then it would be a much better deck. Or if Twiddle Storm had the aforementioned crop rotation, which would basically mean that you can do some country ping on turn 1 and turn 2, and then very often on turn 3 you will have Lotus Field on board with 2 floating mana. And from this point, it's pretty easy to win if your deck is obviously built to do that. But yeah, I think that we can safely say that this benchmark for speed and stability is consistently killing on turn 3. Turn 4 is a bit too late because you will lose to Hammer, be it on the play or on the draw. Of course, unless you can interact, like Living End, for example. But if you are just a combo deck, like Calibrated Blast. That's a very extreme example that can't interact at all almost. Maybe like a Boseju here and there, but to simplify things, let's say that they can't interact at all. You will always lose to Hammer, both on the play and on the draw if they have a good draw. You will most likely lose to Amulet even if you're on the play. You will have to face something like you will have to face 2 counter spells out of Merktide, and they already have a creature on the board that will kill you in a couple turns because they've had enough time to set up. I don't know, your 4-color opponent, which is still probably, even if you can kill on turn 4, it's still a good matchup for you. Sometimes can have like I don't know, a Teferi with that. If Teferi disrupts your combo in some fashion because of its passive, they can have Teferi and they can hold up counterspell or whatever, or they can have like a Solitude if you are a creature deck, whatever, just to hardcast. So yeah, I think like turn 4 stable combo that kill for Modern is a bit too slow now. Like
yeah.
it's been this like hallmark of Modern design almost, like the turn 4 rule that WotC many times quoted, and like, oh, this deck violates turn 4 rule, we have to ban it. And now the turn 4 rule basically is if you are killing on turn 4, you are too slow. So yeah, that's how the times changed.
And the last thing I wanted to say is that like, if you want to play combo decks, the worst thing you can do is to play a worse version of an existing combo deck, like similarly to
Yes.
other like.
Yeah, basically, I agree with that. You can just erase the combo word from this sentence. If you are playing any type of deck, not only combo deck, if you are playing a worse version of other deck, you are doing yourself a huge disservice, basically.
Yeah. For
you
instance,
have an example for us?
You want to play Ad Nauseam? The best advice for you is to stop playing Ad Nauseam and play Belger instead, because the play patterns and gameplay overall is very similar, but you are not losing to Blood Moon, you are not a 3-card combo deck, but a 1-card combo deck.
You're faster.
And you are faster. So like there's like, as much as I love Ad Nauseam, and I loved it when Sima Spirit Guide was around, the deck is sadly unplayable. And a similar situation is with Infect. You can play Infect, but you can also play Hammer, and Hammer is just a better Infect deck. Like Tameshi is somewhere in between. In all 3 metrics, it got some points, but in my opinion, not enough to be considered as a
it's like 3 out of 5 in all of those, and without having like to me, it's a deck that isn't bad at anything, like too bad, but it isn't good at anything at the same time. So you don't have anything to like hold on to. Like for example, if you're playing Belcher, and even if you face a tough matchup, well, I can always kill them on turn 2 from time to time. Or if you are playing Living, and I can have Grief and my combo from time to time, or I can bonk them with Hammer from time to time. Tameshi doesn't have this type of cheat almost. Like you can just cheat, just not draw your way out of like tough matchup because you can't win before turn 4.
Technically you can, but this requires a lot of pieces to go together.
Can you play Tameshi on turn 2 then?
You can play turn 2 like Explore, and
okay, then I can see how it goes. Yes.
Stuff. But that's and once you get Wargate, Tameshi, Explore, then you need to also draw into Cultivate Your Colossus or a tutor for it. So that's a lot of pieces, and you need to have like all of your land drops available. So that's a lot of pieces, and that's really hard to achieve. And like in terms of Tameshi, every time I think, what is the metagame good for Tameshi? Like, what is the metagame when I would like to register this deck? I just fail to find one, or I can find a better deck for these metrics. For instance, if the metagame isn't about creature removal, it's not the fastest, so technically it should be good for Tameshi. There are still other, better decks that can just
Yeah, if there is not a lot of creature removal and the metagame is rather slow, then Hammer will just mow down everyone, basically. Or even out of those bad decks, like creature removal is probably the best way to interact with, like the most prohibitive way for Storm to interact. Like it's not that easy to win on turn 3 if you don't untap with a creature that you played a turn earlier. You can, but it's much harder to do so. So if you expect to untap with your 2-mana creature, then you can just play Storm, and you'll probably like.
Technically yes, but on the other hand, like Greyquit can be a problem because like.
And it's not for Tameshi. Like, Tameshi
it's
is
not the biggest. It's not the biggest problem because it touches graveyard, but it doesn't using it that hard. For instance, you can just bounce another land and return Lotus Bloom in response to something like Endurance. So you can play around
you can you can win against one shot.
Yeah, and
even 2 shots.
Let's compare it. Let's compare it to Storm when you need to create a critical mass, then cast Passing Flame, then someone endurances and you lose just one. So that some other like minor things that you need to keep an eye on. Yeah, but overall, I just don't feel that Tameshi is ever close to being an optimal combo choice for the tournament.
Yeah, I guess I mentioned Storm because I feel like Tameshi has similar weaknesses of being not terrible against any one sort of like interaction, but it's bad against many of them. Like removal spell will kill your Tameshi. I don't know. Graveyard Hates, like for example, Rest in Peace or Leyline, will shut down your combo. Counter Magic, discard, Stony Silence, or like Current the Great Creator, more commonly these days effects, will shut down your combo. Blood Moon will be pretty good against you. Like you can combo through Blood Moon if you actually have Tameshi on board and wild mana to start your combo. Like if you fetch Mountain or Island and Plains, you can win.
Blood Moon will stop your setup most likely.
Yeah. Like once you are actually comboing, that it doesn't matter. But if you don't have this first white mana and Tameshi in play, then Blood Moon will like prevent you from comboing.
Okay. So overall, combo decks in Modern are like have a harder and harder time. Some would say that it was a golden era before Modern Horizons for them. And now we are in a fair fight of like combo versus fair decks. Others will say that combo deck struggles, and it would be lovely to see some form of help. For instance, maybe Sitting Song would be nice nowadays.
I don't think that Sitting Song changes things for Storm. Or maybe some other combo deck like Hive Mind, I don't know, but I don't think that Sitting Song changes enough for Storm. I think like you would have to build it in a different way. I don't think that Sitting Song is that good in a Electromancer plus Gifts combo, like in this way of building Storm. And if you are ditching this, then you are ditching a lot of your stability. Like that was the reason that this version of Storm was actually good, because it had deterministic turn 3 kill so often from so little resources. And if you have to go back to those decks that are like, okay, maybe I will play Pyromancer Ascension and then I will just Manamorphose my way through the deck, and then at some point I will get Passing Flames, and maybe I will replay all my cards, but I can still fizzle with a pretty high chance.
I was thinking more about Belcher.
I guess Belcher is already good, right? Like,
yeah, it could be better.
And of course, but about what you said about combo decks being bad now, I think they are not bad. They evolved. They evolved to meet the standards of the format nowadays. So I would agree that like pure solitaire combo decks that were good back in the day are largely gone, with the exception of Belcher. And you are seeing more decks like more of those creature combo decks like Hammer or some like hybrids in general. You have Hammer, which is like creature deck combo hybrid. You have Amulet, which is like ramp combo hybrid.
Glimpse is a mid-range combo.
Glimpse is like mid-range combo. And Living End is like
Combo
Living End
that
is Living End. It's basically it's free spell combo hybrid, I guess. Like pitch spell combo hybrid.
Like
Living End relies a ton on those pitch spells. Like they are.
Yeah, that's true.
They are the reason that Living End can exist. Without them, Living End would be really bad.
Before Force of Negation, Living End was like tier 7.
Yes, exactly.
Like after that, it was a solid tier 2 with Grief around. It's again a tier 1 deck. So overall, combo decks are like we said fine, but they had to change. And I'm curious how the evolution of combo decks will keep doing, because for instance, if we saw Glimpse like from the beginning of its existence, right after Modern Horizons 2, when people were trying to cascade
playing like a slot
into,
machine basically.
Yeah, like going for miracles, etc. And nowadays Glimpse deck is filled with elementals that can create value, and you can easily play the game even without your cascade engine at all. So the difference is here, yeah. So
it's very
I'm
large.
curious,
that's true.
Yeah, I'm curious what will happen next.
Yes. So I guess to have some advice for people who are struggling with the fact that their once good combo deck is not good anymore, I think the most largest group of people from this category are Storm players. I think there are many people who would like Storm to be good because it was a good deck for like 2 years, over 2 years. Like Baral got printed in 2017, January 2017, and Modern Horizons 1, which had Force of Negation, was I think the Death Knell to Storm was 2019 June. So almost 2.5 years of Storm being an actually decent and sometimes good or even great deck. So yeah, I personally like Storm very much, and I would like Storm to be good. But yeah, I guess you have to, as an actual advice, because I said that I will have an advice, is that you should look at all those metrics that Sodek mentioned, and you should try to quantify how good you are on all of those metrics. And when you find those that you are lacking on, you might scour Gatherer. Maybe somebody didn't find, like nobody found the card that magically will make Storm good. Like it is possible. We saw that like with Amulet, that people started playing Amulet once every piece of Amulet was available for like 2 years or even more than that, sometimes something like that. So you can maybe find something. Like it's unlikely these days, like there's like information just is passing through so quickly. But aside from that, like you can just look at the new printings and you know what you are looking for. If you find a way to make Storm more resilient, then, for example, I don't know, if there is an artifact that serves as a Goblin Electromancer instead of a creature,
that would be nice.
And you dodge one of the most common form of interaction this way. Or if you are playing Calibrated Blast and they reprint Ancient Tomb, which is not possible, but something like this, like even one-shot way to get 2 mana, like Saprazan Scary, I think the land is called. Or if you are playing, I don't know, Neoform and they print Leyline of Defense Grid or whatever, like actual, you can start with Defense Grid on the play. Like, I don't know. Like, you have to look for new printings and then have them be good at the axis you are lacking. Similarly, if you are building new combo deck, you know what you should look for. You have to look for speed, stability, and resilience to hate. And if you lack at one of those, if you keep losing games, you have to identify, why am I losing these games? Which of those metrics are failing me? And try to tune this deck to have more ground, or to gain more ground on this particular metric. Maybe as a result, you will lose some power from the other one, because it's like a process of fine-tuning. You are taking something from here to add here, and you have to like tune it to be as good as possible. Or maybe you will just have all of those combo decks built, and you will just have to pick the right deck, like Sodek is, for the weekend. I think the point about trying to pick a deck with glaring weakness for weekends that this glaring weakness does not matter is an excellent point. And if you have to take one thing from this video, I think that would be it. I think that was an excellent point from Sodek, that you should try to match up your weakness with what metagame is not caring about at any given point.
Yeah, and this, maybe not facts is maybe not the best word. Like this, like theoretical knowledge, it's not only used for modern. For instance, I'm trying to find the right balance for Abzan Greasefang in Pioneer right now. I don't know if the deck is actually good or is it a scam. Right now, I think it's more of a scam than being good, but the results from other players say otherwise. So maybe I'm doing something wrong. But I was trying the version with, for example, 4 features supplier to speed up. I was trying versions with like 7 discards main deck to be more resilient to hate, to crucial removal. I was trying to attack from a different angle, trying to play Gurmak Angler or like other threats post sideboard. So far, I'm searching for my right balance, and maybe I will find it, maybe not. Who knows? But at least I know what I am searching for. So if you want to tune any of your combo decks, just think about these 3 metrics: speed, stability, resilience to hate.
Okay. Anything else we want to add, Sodek?
No.
We do want to add something. You can find all of our content in description below. There will be a link to website, to our Twitch streams, Twitter, everything you want to. Every place you can find us, basically. And if you have any questions, any comments, any type of feedback, please leave the comment down below. Especially if you have feedback or something you want us to talk about, because we will be doing those mailbag videos that we did a while ago. If you haven't seen it, you can find it right here. And we need your questions to make more of those because we enjoy doing them. So please send us your questions in the comments, give us feedback. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next week. As always, take care and bye-bye.
See ya.